Injuries felt like they had one in the bag. Check that bag again. It belongs to Chicago. Back in studio, Joe Musso, pleased to be alongside the two-time Super Bowl champ Bryant McFadden and our lead NFL insider Jonathan Jones. And I take a deep breath, and maybe I just passed the football here because I don't know what we just watched, guys. That was a game that at many moments in that fourth quarter felt like there wasn't enough offense for Chicago. There wasn't enough clock for Chicago. And here we sit, a walk-off winner on a beautiful deep ball in a windy shoulder field from Caleb Williams to DJ Moore. Mac, how do you process this moment?
First and foremost, Joe, you said you don't know what we just watched. Yes, we do. An instant classic.
It felt like it.
That was an instant classic. I mean, we just saw a classical matchup between these same two teams a few weeks ago in Lambeau that worked in favor of the Green Bay Packers. Well, the Chicago Bears, they got their lick back tonight. And one thing I know about quality, good football teams, on any level, youth football, high school, collegiately, or professionally, if you allow a good team to hang around that corner, eventually they will find a way to win the ball game. And that's what the Chicago Bears did today because they're a heck of a good team. This is not the same old Chicago Bears that found ways to lose ball games, guys. This is a team, if you let them stick around, and you're going to mess around and find out. And the Green Bay Packers, because of a few mishaps, they messed around and they found out what happens when you allow good teams to stick around. And the Iceman cometh. JJ, Caleb Williams.
JJ, I can't get over that throw right now because so much happened to even allow the opportunity for that throw. But on a night when the wind's going sideways, in this rivalry where the narrative has been, they just can't do it. Doesn't matter who's wearing the jersey, the Packers are going to find a way to win. For Caleb Williams to have that moment, 14 days removed for the one that ended the game in Lambeau Field, what does that mean?
It means a great deal for Caleb Williams. You talk about exercising the demons of the Green Bay Packers and the Chicago Bears and all that. This is so far Caleb Williams' signature classic moment in the NFL. And look, he's already had a few of them so far this season. Joe, we all have sat up here on Sundays and we've talked about, hey, the Chicago Bears are winning games this year, finding ways to win games this year that they have not in years past. You go back to week 6 against the Washington Commanders, winning by 1 point when their season turned on that Hail Mary, right? You go back to the Raiders game even before that in week 4. They beat the Vikings by 2 points. They beat the Steelers by a field goal. And then, of course, the Black Friday game against the Philadelphia Eagles. And what have we said, B-Mac? Wow, okay, the Chicago Bears continue to prove it to us. So we have to take them seriously because they show us week in, week out, different ways that they're winning. Not lucky ways that they're winning, but finding ways to win. And what did we see today? They took advantage of the Green Bay Packers' mistakes, just like the Packers took advantage of their mistakes 2 weeks ago. And look, I don't want to call an injury necessarily a mistake, but Jordan Love going out and being replaced by Malik Willis. Okay, now you got to make sure that Malik Willis doesn't beat you. And for a moment, B-Mac, it looked like Malik Willis might beat them.
No question.
Okay, and yeah, you got to have a little luck on your side with the onside kick, but Cairo Santos is not known for having the biggest leg in the NFL. In fact, he's known for having one of the weakest legs in the NFL. And so to be able to kick nearly 50 yards on those field goals through the wind, that's really good. That is a total team effort. The defense clamping down in the second half, the special team stepping up, and then, of course, Caleb Williams and DJ Moore and the run game doing what they did today.
To your point, it does feel like they are staring specifically all of those demons in the eyes, each and every one of them individually, and finding a way to right that wrong. Moving forward, what it means, who knows? What we do know is that they now have about an 84% chance to win the North for the first time since 2018, and it all changes on some clock management late in the fourth, an onside kick, and then what they do in overtime, Mac. We also have to process this through the lens of the Green Bay Packers, because I was getting ready to sit here and ask you how this team, so beaten up, battered, and bruised, after this win, finds a way to pick themselves back up and ensure that 2 seed, ensure the North. Now you have to pick yourself up off this loss and do the same.
Yeah, and that's the thing about a game like tonight. You do not want this loss to provide another loss because of the emotional highs, emotional ebbs and flows that were attached to this game. Because in the midst of all these injuries, you lost your star quarterback in Jordan Love to the concussion. We saw Josh Jacobs. He seemed like he wasn't involved much in the fourth quarter.
He had the knee, he only came back for 2 plays. Romeo Doubs dealing with a wrist.
Yeah, he didn't finish the game healthy. He was on the sideline. But they still should have won this ball game.
Yeah.
Right? When you talk about Chicago having 10 penalties for over 100 yards. Green Bay had 4 penalties for only 4 yards. When you talk about losing those key contributors that I mentioned, but yet and still in the red zone, you are 0 for 5 in the red zone. If you capitalize on one of those red zone opportunities, you win this ball game. Can't forget about the red zone turnover by your star running back in Josh Jacobs, who's a short-handed ball carrier of the football. But unfortunately, in that moment, inside the 5, you fumble the football. Those are missed opportunities that led to Chicago being able to do what they did today. Green Bay is still a playoff caliber team.
Yeah.
And in the midst of their injuries and losing their star quarterback, Malik Willis came in and played winning football. This just was a very, very tough game to lose. But like I said, you don't want this loss to provide another loss because of the emotional roller coaster that you were just in the midst of.
It was a beautiful pivot by Green Bay when Willis comes in.
Yeah.
The game plan pivots with him, the play calling as well. They started to stretch the edges of the Chicago Bears, lean into the legs of Willis. But one after another, another tight end goes down, what's feared to be an Achilles.
Fitzpatrick.
You've already lost your number one. You're thin there now. You have Romeo Doubs leave this game with a wrist injury late in it. Josh Jacobs' knee is not getting better in short order, and prescient most in this moment is Jordan Love in the concussion. You are hopeful that he will be back sooner rather than later to make this late push, JJ, but at what point has the attrition become too much for Green Bay?
Well, it may be becoming too much, right? I mean, we just witnessed a playoff game, right? And sometimes you forget about attrition when you're in those moments and the adrenaline takes over, right, Mac? I mean, it doesn't matter who you're playing with. Practice squad players, you're going to go out there and have a ball game. But now you have a week, and the Packers, I believe, play the Ravens.
They got the Ravens next.
They have the Ravens next.
Yep.
And what no one here has yet said, but while we just saw the Chicago Bears take command of the NFC North, the Packers are still trying to fight for their playoff lives as well. The Detroit Lions aren't going away quietly in the night. We'll get to that. Typically, what I would say, especially as it relates to concussions on 1 week, you'd say, all right, well, they played on Saturday, and so at least you have an 8th day to get ready. You're going to play on Sunday. That's not the case for the Packers in this scenario. They're playing next Saturday. So you just have a week. You can get out of concussion protocol after a week. That has happened plenty in the NFL. I don't want to call it rare, but it's also not common. So we'll see how it goes with Jordan Love. One thing that concerned me a little bit was he did not come back out onto the field on the sideline in the second half. Don't want to get into severities of concussions and all that, but that we'll see and have to monitor that. The wide receivers have been banged up. Josh Jacobs' injury. You do wonder, we haven't even talked about Micah Parsons, the pass rush. When will all of these things really build up and affect the Green Bay Packers? It may be coming sooner rather than later.
And Baltimore, and then they finished with Minnesota.
Correct, at Minnesota.
At Minnesota. So this final 2-game stretch for Green Bay, because of what happened tonight and with all of these injuries, it's very, very important.
And don't think for a second as you hear Minnesota and you say, well, they're out of the playoffs. It's the last game of the season. They have a lot to build on themselves with J.J. McCarthy, and they would love nothing more than to spoil the Packers' season.
If this game is not evident, guaranteed in the NFL, nothing is guaranteed, not even the Bears heading to the playoffs just yet. They would, however, clinch a spot in the playoff picture with a Steelers win over the Lions coming up on Sunday. Matt, can you take care of that for Chicago?
That's our plan.
Yeah,
that's our plan.
This one had some history in it. You said it felt like an all-timer. It felt historic. It was just that. It's the first time since the year 1960 that the Bears beat the Packers when trailing by 10 or more points in the fourth quarter.
Wow.
This doesn't happen every night. What we just saw does feel like a little bit of it, and it's a massive moment for Chicago as this team moves forward. You talked about dealing with the ebbs and the flows, the highs and the lows. How do you not let this one go to your head and forget you got a big one coming up with San Francisco and then finish the drill against Detroit?
Well, when you have a leader in command like Ben Johnson, he knows exactly what needs to be said, what needs to be addressed, so the players in the locker room won't allow this moment to be bigger than what it is. You did what you were supposed to do, right? We talked about the pregame show. In the midst of all the injuries, not having Rome, not having Luther, we still felt like Chicago should win this ball game because of that home atmosphere. Well, guess what? You went out and you took care of your business. Now, moving forward, these are the expectations for the Chicago Bears. You're not just a playoff caliber team, you're a championship caliber team. Yes, we're living in a world in 2025 where the Chicago Bears have a legit shot to get to San Francisco and hoist that sticky Lombardi because of everything they put forth this entire season and because of who their head coach is.